Welcome to the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Hey, Paul is the CEO of Executive Travel. I'm the chairman, and we've been at this how long, Paul?
39 years.
39 years in the saddle, having fun, more fun every day.
Every day is a new adventure.
Absolutely. Hey,
travel.
every week we come to you with a new edition of the Weekly Traveler. We actually put together a publication that's an email, goes out to 100,000 people every Tuesday at 10:30. And this is a manifestation of that. We put together this podcast because a lot of people just want to listen and watch and do it the easy way.
Keep it easy, yep.
Yeah, do it on their way to work.
Listen to it on the way to work, whatever it may be.
Hey, we can get this on YouTube, which we have a YouTube channel.
Executive Travel, all spelled out.
And then we also have it on several other radio
Spotify's
channels.
and all those types of things that are out there, yep.
Yeah, so you can find us in a lot of ways. So when you're going through the airports, going at home at night, you can find us and listen to us. And we appreciate you joining us today. Today, we got a cool one, Paul.
Okay.
Everybody's looking at going international this year. So you know what I thought? Let's prepare them. I put 14-point checklists together. These are the things you better do before you go internationally. And you ready to go?
Let's do it. I'm leaving in 2 days, so let's make sure I got everything covered.
Here we go. Number one, a valid passport. Most people don't realize they can have a passport. It can be valid today, but it can't get them in the country if it expires in the next 6 months.
Within 6 months of your return travel. So you got to make sure that you've got that. So
check your
what
passport.
I do before every trip is I'll confirm that, make sure when my expiration date is, because the challenge then becomes is if you travel internationally on a regular basis, you got to make sure you've got that 8-week window to get that new one processed. So you got to be ahead of the game on that one. Otherwise, it gets very expensive to expedite that.
And we, in our last Weekly Traveler, we told our listeners that you can now get your passport renewed online. Takes about 3 weeks.
Yep.
Hey, that's the coolest thing since apple pie. Ready to go with number two. These are the items, the 14-point checklist that you got to do before you go internationally. Check the visa and entry requirements for the country. And you can do that on the State Department's website. And check that. It'll tell you if you need vaccinations. They'll tell you if you need visas. They'll tell you if you need an ETA, like in Great Britain and the UK. So all those things you can find out. You better check it out because that can kill your trip. Number three, travel advisories and safety. And that's the other thing is you can also go online and find out with a State Department, and it will tell you on a 1 to 5 scale what is the rating or the security risk that you're facing. Everything from outbreaks of diseases or hurricanes or civil unrest, that type of thing. Check that out.
General violence.
Is
a big one, when you look at Mexico, has been up there higher on the list for a while because in certain areas they have some violent issues. So
number 4 I had was immunizations and health. So you got to check your healthcare professional. I once went to India and had 6 shots.
I know.
Yellow fever, hepatitis. You got malaria pills. You got your pills if things don't agree with you. you got pills and pills and pills. And some of it you go, do I really need all this? But yes, you do.
There's a reason I don't want to go to some places.
That's right. No more. Number 5 I wrote down is travel insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're on a health plan, it probably doesn't cover you internationally. If something goes down, you got to go in a hospital. You don't have coverage. Some hospitals, Paul, won't even accept you if they don't have insurance, or you put $2,000 down or something.
Now, how good are you at that? Do you get it when you go?
I started to.
Okay, I just did it for my trip I'm taking because it's a third world country.
Yeah.
And if something happens to me, I want to be able to get to where the medical conditions are going to be up to the level that I want to be.
Am I listed on your life insurance as part of the proceeds?
At this point, Faith and Julia would be very well taken care of should something happen down there.
Okay, here we go. That's travel insurance. Currency and finance. You got to think about that. And we constantly tell people that first and foremost, use your credit card. call your bank, tell them where you're going, when you're going to be gone, and they'll clear those up. I usually try to take a couple, 2 or 3 credit cards in case one doesn't work for some reason. And then I also try to get some currency. But oftentimes you can get currency better when you get to the country.
Yeah,
cheaper.
the other thing, with this trip that I've got coming up, the consideration they gave was make sure you're bringing small bills.
Yeah.
5s, 10s, 20s, because when you're getting into some of these parts of the world, a $100 bill, they can't break it.
Yeah.
And you don't want people to see that you've got large bills.
Yeah.
So
Great.
if that goes back to security.
Great point. Number 7 on this week's weekly travel alert is our 14-point checklist. If you're traveling internationally, Paul's going down to Central America.
Nicaragua.
I'm going to Italy. So I'm going to go that way. You're going that way.
I'm going that way.
Here we go. Itinerary and reservations. Confirm all your flight bookings. Confirm your seat assignments. Guess what? That flight that you made 6 months ago, they may have changed the departure earlier by an hour.
Could have, yes.
And if you miss it, it'll ruin your whole trip.
That's also, that's one of the reasons why a good travel advisor, because they're going to continue to monitor those. They're going to get notifications when there is a schedule change. So, if you book through another means, you're probably not going to get all that notification. And that's when you can get that surprise. And, sometimes they'll do a schedule change and all of a sudden you don't have enough time for your layover. And that could be a challenge. So you want to make sure you jump on that as quickly as possible.
I've had a flight, Paul, that had 6 scheduled changes since when I bought it to when I traveled. That's amazing. We're halfway through number 8 on this week's 14-point checklist if you're traveling internationally. Electronics and communication. Make sure you got the power plug. Make sure you know what voltage it is that you're going to go. So if you're going to Europe, you got to have that European adapter, right?
Yep.
If you don't have a USB port that's easy to plug into. Now, all the cars there have USB ports. So I know I always take a USB and I don't have the USB little dingy thing at the end.
Little dingy thing.
Little dingy
The
thing.
little dingy thing.
So you got to pay attention to that. And I always I'm on Verizon. I always do the Verizon $10 a day fee to use international data and get calls. I don't worry about it. Now, the only problem is if you use your data too much, they'll do a surcharge and say if you want to keep the same speed, you got to pay another $10.
Yep.
But that's the way. I think you do it for security reasons a lot, don't you? That you use your phone.
I do, yeah. So I never log into a public Wi-Fi just because of the data that I've got and the electronics that I'm accessing. I want to make sure that you never know. You never know. I've heard stories about computer techie guys that they'll be sitting on an airplane and they can log in and ultimately see what anybody else that's on that same network is looking at.
That's amazing.
That's a scary thing in my world.
Number 9 reads medications and prescriptions. Carry an ample supply of any prescriptions. Also, you might want to even carry your prescription with you or have a copy of it on your phone. And make sure you don't put it in your
That's the
luggage.
thing, that you got to make sure that's in your carry-on because you never know when that bag's not going to get there. So either if you are going to put it in your checked bag, that's when you want to make sure you also have a copy of the prescription so you can get it refilled if you need to.
I put number 10, travel documents, and I take copies and photos of all the travel documents, my passports, visas, my travel insurance. I take photos of that so they're on my phone. Easy to find. Hopefully I don't lose my phone. And also a lot of our travel advisors will store that for you here. So if you lose it over there,
make a phone
call our
call,
office and you can get
email
that.
it down to you.
You bet. Number 11 is transportation. Research transportation options at your destinations, especially if you're using public transportation.
It depends on what you're looking for. This is one where in much of the world you can find the Ubers and the Lyfts. Lyfts not so much maybe, but Ubers. But they may function differently. I know over in Rome, you can call taxis via the Uber app.
Right.
And so they don't have standard Ubers. They've either got like black cars or black vans, or they've got taxis that are available. So, that takes a little bit of getting used to because you don't go to the normal taxi stand. If you call a taxi via the Uber, there's a separate place you have to go. So make sure you kind of have looked through that and you're comfortable with what that's going to look like.
What's more fun than sharing about travel?
Oh, telling the stories about your adventures.
All right.
So, or traveling itself.
All right.
So,
Storytelling. All right. Along the way, number 12 on this week's 14-point checklist of what you better do before you go internationally, check the local customs and etiquette. I mean, there's so much you got to be respectful for, or it can be taken the wrong way around the world. So check those cultures.
yeah, we did a fam trip to Istanbul last year, and that was a big deal. I went in a day late, but the crew that went in the day earlier than I did, they toured a mosque while I was on my travel day, and the ladies all had to have head coverings and things like that we just don't think about.
Right.
Over here, I don't think about it. So just little things like that typically, your tour guides are going to be able to advise that and whatever. But yeah, you just got to make sure that you understand some of the cultural differences.
Number 13 reads, pack smart. Check the weather conditions. Figure out if you got to layer your clothes. Comfortable shoes. You don't need to take a lot of shoes. Necessary medications, any toiletries, travel adapters. Look, people pack twice what they need, right?
I don't.
Well, most people do.
My wife did. She packed 5 times what she needed.
5 times, but you don't need that much. You can do laundry where you're at. Pack smart, pack light. That's for sure. Why hassle with that luggage and worry about it being lost? So just take about half of what you think you need, okay? Number 14, last but not least, emergency contacts. Save important contacts number in your phone. I usually do that where I know who I'm going to call where. I know the hotel. I know the tour operator. I know the driver's number and name. I try to do that.
The other one that we didn't have on here, and I know you're still going there, but you just reminded me, is take that picture of where you parked your vehicle.
Absolutely.
So, because that's always the one, especially when you're going out of a larger airport.
And 14 days later.
When you travel every other week, all of a sudden it's like, well, I normally park over there, but for whatever reason, that wasn't where I'm at this time. So,
hey, we've had fun today with a 14-point checklist that you better look at before you travel internationally. I'm Steve Glenn with Executive Travel.
Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback, as well as topics that would be of interest on future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.